Hello everyone. Welcome back to the UR Pavithran Channel. Today's video will cover the most significant global and political news happening around the world. From major geopolitical shifts to economic trends and social movements, we've got a lot to cover, so let's dive straight into the top headlines of the day. Starting with the United States, there has been significant political activity leading up to the upcoming presidential election in November. The campaigns of the two leading candidates have been highly competitive, with debates around critical issues such as healthcare, immigration, and climate policy taking center stage. Recent polls show that Joe Biden, representing the Democratic Party, has a slight lead over the incumbent, Donald Trump from the Republican Party. One of the key issues shaping this race is healthcare reform. Joe Biden has promised a more inclusive healthcare system, while Donald Trump has been focusing on national security and economic growth. The American voters seem more divided than ever, and this election could be one of the most consequential in recent history. Additionally, foreign policy is playing a big role, with discussions around how the U.S. will manage its relationships with major powers like China and Russia. Both candidates have laid out starkly different approaches to trade, diplomacy, and military strategy. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out in the final weeks of the campaign. Moving over to Europe, the European Union is facing significant challenges as it deals with both internal political tensions and external pressures. In Germany, Chancellor Olaf Scholz has announced plans to step down next year, prompting speculation about the future leadership of Europe's largest economy. His successor will inherit a range of challenges, from managing EU relations with the United Kingdom post-Brexit to navigating energy security amidst the global climate crisis. Meanwhile, in France, President Emmanuel Macron's government is dealing with widespread protests over new labor reforms. These reforms, aimed at increasing economic flexibility, have sparked outrage among workers who fear losing their rights and job security. The situation is becoming increasingly volatile, with unions threatening to shut down essential services if their demands are not met. At the same time, the European Union is trying to present a united front on the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Sanctions against Russia are being tightened as the EU seeks to bring stability to the region while maintaining its energy security. The coming months will be critical for the future of Europe's political and economic stability. Let's now turn to the Asia-Pacific region, where major developments are unfolding. In China, the government continues to push forward with its economic reforms, aiming to solidify its position as a global superpower. However, the country is facing growing international criticism over its human rights record, particularly in the Xinjiang region. Western countries, including the US, and some EU member states, are increasing diplomatic pressure on China to address these concerns. In Japan, political instability is growing as Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's government grapples with leadership challenges following a series of policy failures. The economy has been struggling to recover from the impact of the global pandemic, and voters are becoming increasingly frustrated with the government's handling of the situation. Early elections could be on the horizon, with opposition parties gaining ground over in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government has been making significant moves in the tech and manufacturing sectors as part of its Make in India initiative. India's rise as a technological hub continues to be a major talking point on the global stage. However, political tensions with neighboring China over border disputes remain a point of concern for regional stability, and, in the Middle East, the situation remains complex with multiple ongoing conflicts and diplomatic efforts. The ongoing peace talks between Israel and Palestine are entering a critical phase, with both sides appearing more willing to negotiate than ever before. These negotiations are seen as a potential breakthrough in a conflict that has lasted decades, but deep-seated issues such as territory and refugees remain unresolved. In Iran, the recent economic sanctions imposed by Western countries are taking a toll on the economy. Despite this, the Iranian government continues to assert its nuclear ambitions, raising tensions in the region. Other Gulf states, such as Saudi Arabia and the UAE, are continuing their diplomatic push to strengthen ties with the West while also trying to reduce their reliance on oil exports through economic diversification efforts. In Israel, political instability persists after a series of elections failed to produce a stable government. The country is still grappling with internal divisions and external security threats, particularly from neighboring Hezbollah and Hamas. Turning our focus to Africa, several countries are dealing with significant political upheaval. In Sudan, the transitional government is struggling to maintain control amidst growing unrest and protests against economic hardships. The situation is tense as the country approaches its first democratic elections in years. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, political leaders are under pressure to address ongoing security challenges posed by extremist groups like Boko Haram in the north. The government's efforts to stabilize the country have faced numerous setbacks, and the international community is watching closely as the situation evolves. In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa's government is dealing with a new wave of political corruption scandals that have further eroded public trust in leadership. Calls for reform are growing louder as citizens demand accountability from their leaders. And that wraps up today's major global and political news stories. It's clear that the world is in a state of significant change, with major developments happening across every region. Stay tuned to the UR Pavithran channel for more in-depth coverage of these important stories as they evolve. If you found today's news update helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay informed about the latest global trends and political developments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.